Hey, good evening, Galleon. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary. It's Monday night, and so it must be time for another live stream. Got a few items we'll hit on, and then hopefully there's some questions. There's been a lot of local issues um, discussed in the community, some good stuff in the Inquirer recently, and so we'll kind of see how that goes. Start with there will be a special meeting tomorrow night. I have for many months had plans to be out of the community tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly how that will, how my attendance will happen, or whether I'll have to be absent. But the whole purpose of the meeting is to supplementally appropriate several line items that are needed to roll over our annual debt. Each year, in the neighborhood of $2.5 million, the city borrows on a short-term basis. Those notes are generally issued this time of year, and then certainly the old notes expire, and so we're up against a bit of a deadline. And so Auditor's Office staff's done a good job of identifying where we're short in which funds to make sure which part of that $2.6 million debt issue, I believe it's in that neighborhood. Something that's always a treat to hear is the council clerk goes through every item that's being borrowed. Certainly you can see that and online, but it's a range of borrowing from the screw pump at the sewer plant, finishing up some of our debt service on our most recent electric upgrade, to some highway improvements. And so it's an annual renewal, and generally speaking, we pay about 10% of that debt down and then renew the amount. I believe the borrowing cost is going to be in and around 1.5%. So at least for the time being, it still makes good financial sense to roll these notes, pay them down slowly, and roll these notes versus issuing some sort of more long-term bond. So probably the last thing I'd say about tomorrow night's meeting is within that proposal is a recommendation, and that the middle section, if you will, what I was often called the Ralphie section of 598 widening, the proposal is to pay that off so that as we continue to pay for the northern section, we'll have that middle section, if you will, from Heisey Park Lane out to just north of Carter Drive there, where it narrows to 2 lanes. So that's the rest of what's in tomorrow night's legislation, is really adjusting the appropriation to add enough money to be able to roll those notes. And so it's urgently needed, but I don't think it's something that presents a lot of controversy. So that's tomorrow night. And perhaps enough said on that, unless there's some questions. Anybody's been up at the Dollar General lately, in the west side at least, or in the Galleon West parking lot, seen an encouraging development, and that's a pair of big dumpsters. And from my curbside observation, it looks like they're beginning to be filled up, and all of that's in connection with the much anticipated, and I have real high confidence that we'll have Bueller's will be in back where Geyer's used to be sometime around mid-September. They met with our key people on the health department side, on the building side, on the fire code side week or so ago. It looks like there will be no major permits, so that sometimes the slowing the process of trying to get commercial permits approved, I think that will go pretty well, and so they're still shooting for a mid-September opening for that. And for those of us who missed the opportunity to shop in town, and we really have limited choices, I think this will give us another choice. I still expect to see people over at the big box stores, because there's certain things that Galleonites may find more affordable. But I think what we've been missing and what we've heard about on nearly every Monday for the last 2.5 or 3 years is what's being done about getting a new grocery store. So that's just around the corner, and if they're doing demo on the inside, I think that's the forerunner of making the kind of internal improvements or getting the place fixed up and ready to roll. So that's, I think, something important I hadn't mentioned on a Monday night. Next couple of things quickly. Met with the dog park, fence company that gave us the lowest bid on the dog parks. We're about 4 weeks away from receiving materials, and the company will start soon after that. The expected schedule is about 3 days at Kobe Park, about 2 days at South Park. You know how that's weather dependent. So, what we're really hoping for is that by Labor Day, we'll have those dog parks up and running. We'll figure out what rules we need, what rules we can do without for the time being. Hopefully people will be on reasonably good behavior, and we won't have to, it won't go from a dogs on the baseball field back and forth issue to a monitoring, or your dog pooped and didn't clean it up, that kind of thing that becomes something that the city's expected to come in and sort through. So pretty excited about getting the dog parks. We've been asked, I don't want to say it with the frequency of the grocery store, but it's frequently asked on these Monday night live streams, what we need a dog park, what about a dog park? So I'm not sure if Matt, did you have that to be able to show the outline of that before I get off the dog park? Can you do that real quickly? Give you an idea of the perimeter of so I'm not sure what's up there, but I imagine it's Kobe Park first.
Correct.
And you probably note when you take a look at that there's a separation between the big dogs and the little dogs. It's a bigger area out there by design. And then down at South Park, it's kind of in the wooded area, but I think we've got roughly an acre site, and that'll be dogs of all shapes, sizes. And so, again, there may be some working out of the operational details, but I think if you have a little dog, at least you have a place to take them without having to be in competition with larger and sometimes some breeds seem aggressive, but they're really friendly, but that's not always the case. So we'll try to separate those. South Park will just be one big half-acre play area, if you will. So that's that. Those are Freeze Fund paid projects, by the way. Next thing I want to jump into very quickly, an update. Pico 2 Park. There's been a desire to have netting out there for many years, and we having received having received 3 quotes, not a handful, but 3 quotes. What we're finding is all of those appear to be over $50,000, and so we've looked at a couple different ways maybe to purchase materials and do the project that way, but it looks like that field in that improvement out at the Pico Quad is probably moving towards a sale. So we'll be putting out a request for bids and trying to get that done as soon as possible. This looking more and more like a fall project versus a project that would still have a benefit to the softball and the teenage baseball community. I suspect by the time that gets done, the season will be done, and there's something to be said for that too. Not to be forgotten, East Park, we're moving close on that. It looks as though we're going to be able to break out the components pretty easily from lighting. Doesn't seem to be a big cost. We've got a backstop quote that I think we can approve without bidding. Before we went live today, we were talking about what kinds of dugouts. So, and I guess my recommendation is to have dugouts real similar to what you see at Pico, and I think they're not much different than what has been built at Heisey Park. And if I'm not mistaken, the Little League field or the a larger field at South Park has those dugouts. If they don't, I guess they'll be next. So those are once again, the improvements at East Park, much like Pico, probably won't be in place until next year, but I think they're well on the way. The money is literally in the account. We're moving ahead to getting it purchased, getting contractors identified, and then getting the projects built. A couple of things in more, so those are like unfinished business, a little bit of what's going to happen tomorrow night, and I think it's necessary legislation. I guess from my perspective, the deadline to get these to get this ordinance fine-tuned kind of jumped upon us, and we got right near the date issuance. So the issuance date, excuse me, and so that's why we the need for the emergency meeting. All right, couple more things quick, and then we'll see if there are some questions. Below the fold, that's like an old newspaper term. You want to be above the fold on the front page. But if the picture leads you to below the fold, there was a real good article. Matt was quoted in it. I don't think he had anything to do with it except he was quoted. But this is a project that Nikki Ward, who manages a lot of the FAA stuff within our small office here, worked hard on. It's essentially 1.3 million. It'll allow us to resurface the runway in a way that we hadn't hoped for or expected for a few years. When council first passed the legislation, there was I think a 5% or 10% local share, and since then that local share has been substituted or replaced by more federal funds. And so while sometimes makes you a little nervous in the pit of your stomach, in this particular case, especially for the local general aviation community, this is that along with the lighting project that's new out there is really, it's going to make using our airport a little bit better, and I think it really moves us forward going in the next 2-3 years. Really need to look at a renovation. I don't even say renovation. Probably new construction of the terminal area and where the pilots operate from. They have training, some other things. So that's certainly out there, seen its better days since the Fisher Aviation era. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll see what kind of questions we have, is Thursday there was the bid opening for the 598 widening. It looks like a local contractor has the low bid, and I think that's good. I think the firm knows the area and will understand how important maintaining the flow of traffic out there on 598 through the balance of this year and then through almost all of next construction season. There'll be work going on out there. We've done a fair amount of the money that the city is putting into this project. It's not state, federal funds, but the local money is going to make sure that we maintain traffic. When we first looked at this, and I've talked about this a few other times, so I'll make it quick. When we first were looking at the project, the engineering firm came back and said, well, this is how we should maintain traffic. Basically detour half the traffic and only allow you to move either north or south. And they said, well, which one do you think is best? And my answer then, and it is now, is that neither of those, that we need to have both lanes of traffic open and safely ready for use. It will for sure make turning, which is already a headache, getting in and out, turning into the project will be limited somewhat. But you will be able to go both north and southbound throughout the entirety of the project. So I think that's an important thing. We, in terms of local funds, are going to buy some temporary asphalt as part of the project to make sure that there's widened lanes so that we can accomplish that, at least one lane of traffic in each direction. So it will, I suspect beginning this fall, there'll be some level of howling and complaining about how difficult it is to get through this, but I'd only say a couple of things about that. That the improvements that have been made to the south, the McDonald's project and the related widening that's helped the school, and then the widening out to Carter Crossing, all of those, while it's been a little or a lot inconvenient while during the project there, it has certainly made that part of Portland Way safer, and I'm real confident that this project, which will start later this fall, will be one of the big transportation improvements. In fact, it'll complete the reconstruction from the railroad tracks on out to Route 30, and it's kind of a neat accomplishment the city of Galion has been able to make happen, at the same time getting out of fiscal emergency and doing some of the other things that have happened last handful of years. So, all right, I'll stop with that. I've lost total track of time, but I thought all those were important. So I'm not kissing babies, but I'm kissing dogs at the dog park here soon, and and I'll be shaking hands at Bueller's as soon as that opens up. But no, it's good. It's nice to talk about accomplishments. And what I've seen the last several weeks, last several months is as we move into a campaign. I mean, most people have been asked to sign a petition, I imagine, that are voters. A lot of the people who watch this, I'm sure, are already participating in the process. And I really want to do what we can to focus on some positive things, what Galion is going to do going forward, who has the best plans for doing that. And we'll talk about what are perceived needs of improvement in our sewer system. Gee, we've done that. Tried to address issues about how we're managing step by step to reduce some of the unmetered, unbilled use. I think we've explained what's done and the fact that we're moving ahead in spite of criticism. But the point I started out to make is that we really don't, the sort of accusatory tone, I don't know, we'll see if people appreciate that or not. So I'm not trying to hide anything, and the suggestion was made last week that caused me to go ahead and do something like this on Friday was designed to try to straighten that out and clear the air. And I'm not sure what the nearly 750 people who viewed that, and I can't believe all of them thought that was the most wonderful presentation they ever heard. But I think by the comments that followed it, that I think it at least accomplished the goal of trying to explain how the water that's produced, how much is billed and how much goes as metered and unbilled, and then the group that is water lost, that's the group or the amount of water that is unmetered and unbilled, in our efforts to try to rein that in. So anyways, without picking a fight, I think what we'll probably do is address that kind of stuff rather than let it simmer over the weekend. So I like doing the Monday nights because after I get done monologuing, there are usually questions, and sometimes it's hard to generate questions in an impromptu way when you realize on Friday morning you need to make a comment Friday afternoon. So maybe we're going to pick up some questions here. So see what we have.
As of right now, I just have a reminder from Tina. She said the trees uptown still need haircuts.
That's true, and we were just bugging each other today in the office about where the plans are. I think, Tina, you'll remember there's a $100,000 grant that Galion was awarded for the renovation of Park Square. In that effort, we're going to be replacing some trees. That the ones that aren't to be replaced, you're right, they need a haircut. I know someone else who needs a haircut. Let's hopefully we don't get into critiquing that too much tonight. Anything else?
Nothing else, just Dee had a comment, Bueller's is good news.
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's a lot of things about the company I think that we will like. I think the employees will like it. and we're gonna play as active a role as possible in getting good employees in front of their people that are hiring, but it's an employee-owned company, so there's every reason for the people who work there to see it be successful. And I think once the Galleon Buellers gets up and rolling, that you'll see there's that pride of, you know, it's my store, and so I care about the quality of the food that we serve. And yeah, I'm real excited about it, Dee. I think it's you know, people are impatient these days, and things sort of happen when they're ready to happen. This one has that feel to me, that this was took a long time, but I think it'll be real good for Galleon. So what else we got?
Samantha just said there's a tree that needs cut near the street sign for Grove Avenue.
Where at?
Just near Grove Avenue. We can check into it.
Grove and what?
She did not say.
Okay. Those are real important, especially when the stop signs are, you know, it's not a conventional four-way stop, it's a two-way or something, so absolutely appreciate that.
And that is all I have as of right now.
Okay, the one thing I thought there might be a question, I'll go ahead and address it, and then we'll see if there's anything, and then we'll say goodnight. Sleep-ins, I guess somewhat back in the news. There is the mortgage company that foreclosed is pursuing kind of a parallel path. One we don't hear much about, and that is a private sale route. That's what they've done with some of the properties recently that they had a mortgage, not necessarily the same owner that owned our sleep-in, but mortgage hotels that they had the mortgage on. And they pursued the private sale. At the same time, they move towards a sheriff's sale. In fact, the entity that's conducting that sheriff's sale is tied to the private sale as well. So I think there was some discussion, some alarm about whether if it sells, will Galleon's interest be protected? And I think the answer to that is a short one, yes. There was a judgment that will go with the sale that causes the buyer to pay us all the back service payments, and so that'll get them caught up. And then also in that judgment is the requirement for the buyer, the warning, if you will, the acknowledgement that there's this other debt that comes with the hotel. And so you know, that comes up every so often, I think mostly from people who didn't like the idea of the hotel. For me, it's interesting. I won't rattle on too much. You hear a lot of requests for stuff. You'll probably hear things about Bueller's when it opens up, that people really wanted a hotel. I think the community is better as a result of it. I think there are few hotel situations that were more clearly COVID affected than this one. So, you know, you can't, unless you're rooting for failure in the community or failure for the hotel operator, which is it'd be hard to sleep at night if that's how upset or angry you were. But anyways, I think most people have seen it as a benefit to the community, and I'm glad that the city had a part to play in it. I also think that many people think there's a thing called a TIF, that those payments were late. This is a tax increment finance district, but for reasons not worth boring you about, this loan that the put in the infrastructure for the hotel was not TIF'd. And so, you know, our investment, the city's utility fund investors and roadway fund investors will get their money back, that investors being users of the system. We'll get our money back not through a TIF, but by the service payment that is secured in the court judgment. So, you know, my thoughts are nothing much has changed. There was an article about or a posting about it's an advertisement, advertising the sheriff's sale, and so that causes some people to go back to some original misconceptions or misunderstandings about where the city stands. And so it will, under new operator, I think things will go well. Under this interim operator, the bed tax is being paid with some regularity, and I know I've mentioned that before. So anyways, that's Sleep In. If some people, saw that, heard about that, I don't think much has changed. The city's interest is still protected, and I think you'll see it sell privately. If not, the sheriff's sale will develop a potential buyer, and then we'll see if that ends up going all the way to the purchase sale agreement. So we're on the sidelines. Our interest is secured. As a community, I'm not on a sideline. I guess where's the cheerleaders? They're on the sidelines too. I'm a cheerleader. I got pom-poms. I'd even wear a skirt to keep this development out there going. And a kilt. Skirts, maybe, right? But it's real important to the community to have that hotel and any other related development be successful. And so, supporter of the idea to start with, still a supporter, and I think we protected your interest, and I'm not going to get shouted down or shamed into this being a bad idea. It hasn't been for the first several years. I was trying to think this morning, was that in 18 or was that 17 that opened?
17.
Yeah, it's been out there 5 years, so I don't know. Some people are difficult to please, but anybody who's been out there or relatives that have experienced, I think, a pretty good stay, and I'm absolutely convinced it's a good asset for Galleon, and we'll get our money back, folks. The court secured that for us. Our law director made sure that happened. Message from our office was, let's make sure we protect our investment, and Thomas didn't pull it off. Thomas went and did his job in the court, and so as it sells, we'll get our back payments and an agreement to pay the future payments till all that infrastructure is paid off, repaid by the developer. So, in a desperate attempt to get some questions, I maybe went on too long. So if there are any questions, we'll do it. If not, we'll blame it on Roku or Netflix or something. People got other things to do. Anything else?
I did have a quick question from Cindy.
Yeah.
She said there are a lot of cars out at the Sleep In tonight. Are all of those customers?
No, I actually think that Sydney, I'm trying to have fun, so I better just stop myself. I was going to say, no, that's a new impound lot. So we just take cars out there that are impounded from far and near. We park them out there. No, I think it is. I've had been involved in the Galleon Greater season again, and so we have a lot of road trips, a lot of nights coming back late, and it's neat to see. On the weekends, it's been pretty full. What is encouraging is, like you had just mentioned, on a Monday night, there's a lot of cars out there. So I don't know. I think people are out traveling, out anxious to meet with relatives again, and so I think if we can keep CPR, hotel CPR and resuscitation going, that this thing will come back to life. And I know there's difference of opinion about what kind of development should accompany that out there, the sports complex or other stuff, but I remain confident that as we set the table and do our due diligence on whatever development, you're going to see that grow out there. So the Sleep In, it'll be fun to see when that's the oldest investment out there, and all this new stuff makes it need to do a facelift. But let's get it done into new hands and get the operation up and running, because I think it's really good for Galleon, as I've said a couple times before. So, Sydney, thanks. I'm seeing the same thing in the parking lot out there too. So. What else we got?
That is all the questions I had.
That is all? Okay. I guess $3 million worth of grants for the Portland Way project, another $1.2 million or $1.3 million out at the airport. I guess that's a pretty good week I think I saw, I'm horrible at this, as folks know, I think I saw the contractor is mobilized to do that job on South Union, right? I saw his trucks in town. So the one, the shared sewer lateral project of a couple, or concern of a couple weeks ago, I think the guys are on site. If they haven't started yet, that project's gonna start pretty soon, so, you know, those people might think the government isn't responsive, that if you come up and raise your concerns, that, you know, nobody will do anything, you know, strike one, it's just not true. So I think what we're gonna try to do, well, I know we're gonna fix the one situation that came to our initial attention, but again, we're gonna look at shared laterals systematically, strategically, if you'll accept that term, and identify the worst of those shared laterals. There was a problem over off of Fairview earlier, what is this, Monday? I think it was last week. And it partially cleared itself up, but we partially intervened, and there's another one that we know that we have to develop some way to get access to these shared laterals. And then if the tile is in bad shape, we'll plan to replace it, so, yeah. The number of people on a Monday that want to talk about shared sewers, but I do believe that they're here getting it fixed, and so with that, we'll consider that one on the way of being fixed, and then the idea of a more general community-wide solution is well on its way, so. I suppose that's it. We got a measly $555,000, I think, out of the Recovery Act. I say that with a smile on my face. It's gonna make a pretty significant boost to some of the capital improvements that we need to do on both the water side and on the sewer side. And I'm gonna look at some of the money we got as match money for same sorts of projects funded through the county commissioners. So stay tuned, we'll be talking more about that in weeks to come. With that, nobody wants to talk to us, Matt. See you next week, everyone. Good night.